Welcome back to another episode of LSU Live. I'm your host, Lewis Johnson. And man, is it a lot going on in college football world right now. In an off season that gets crazier and crazier by the day. Um, the news cycle is nonstop. And that's also the case at LSU. I'm sure everybody is well aware of the national news going on right now revolving around Michigan. And that has its place. Right now, this is an LSU show. I'll get to that later on. But there's so much going on in Baton Rouge right now. We got to start there. You got recruiting news. You got coaching staff. You got LSU has been invited to the Texas Bowl. Um, and we have special guests for the second week straight coming into the show. So if y'all can hear me over my son, yeah, we got a lot to get to for LSU Live. And biggest news since last week, since last time we talked, is going to be surrounding Blake Baker. Last week, it was all but pretty much accepted that Blake Baker was going to move on to Tulane, to his alma mater, where he coached, where he played. Well, not coached, but where he played and got a start. So turns out Blake Baker decided to stay put. And contrary to what everybody in the media was thinking, Blake Baker decided to stay put at LSU and decline that Tulane job, which is a great opportunity for anybody who's trying to get into coaching. I mean, as far as G5 jobs, you're not going to get a whole lot better than Tulane, considering where that program is right now, its location in South Louisiana. And you kind of, as the playoff is structured right now, you kind of got an in every year if you can, continue to play at the level or keep the program even remotely at the level where it is. You got a pretty decent opportunity to get into the playoffs year in, year out. So why would Blake Baker turn down such a great opportunity to be a head coach when the average guy isn't going to get a job like Tulane as his first head coaching job? Let's see what he said. Blake Baker, in his own words, on why he decided to stay at LSU. He said, quote, I can see myself on the Kirby Smart plan. I don't want to take a job and then move again. And this is not all one sentence, but this is kind of the gist of what he was getting at. And of course, the Kirby Smart plan is going to be, look, I'm going to be an assistant as long as I want. I'm not going to leave until it's not a good job, but a great job. And it's not going to work out like that for 90% of the people. But at a place like LSU, where it's such a high profile job to be the defensive coordinator, you can afford to kind of hold out for a while. You don't have to jump on the first opportunity you get. So he's looking at what Kirby Smart did. He was patient. You get an opportunity to go to a place like Georgia, and he's excelled ever since. I don't want to take a job and then move again. That speaks to his personal situation. And look, moving to New Orleans from Baton Rouge isn't the, it's not the biggest move in the world, but when you got a family, like any move is a big move. And the last point I'm gonna make is even more incentive to not move your family. You got a raise. You were already making 2.5. Now, this new deal or extension is 3 years, 9.3 mil. So that's over $3 million a year to be a DC. You know how many head coaches wish they can make $3 million a year? You can take 3 mil a year. You don't have to answer the tough questions at the press conference when LSU loses and everybody's blaming the offense. You don't have to answer questions as why we didn't get this guy, why'd you go after that guy in the portal. You're just running the defense. You're getting over 3 mil a year. And you can sit there as long as you want. Nobody's gonna mess with Blake Baker. You can be at LSU as long as you want, and your first job can be an SEC job. Even though Tulane is a great opportunity, Baker is the caliber of guy. He can wait until an SEC job opened up. And just to go on Blake Baker, I think it's important to talk about what he has accomplished, because I think people they lean into the negative, and the positive isn't always appreciated as much as it should be. I'm hearing people in media on the radio and they're talking about Blake Baker, and yeah, he's a good defensive coordinator, but top paid in the country. I mean, LSU didn't have an elite defense. You're getting paid elite money, so you had a good defense, but not an elite defense. Well, you got to be realistic too. When Blake Baker came to LSU, that defense was so bad. You're not gonna go from historically bad to elite in 2 years. You're just not. It doesn't matter how much you're getting paid. It doesn't matter what you're getting in the portal because it still takes time to get guys on the same page and the mesh and the gain some chemistry amongst each other. So you're asking, honestly, you're asking too much if you're asking Baker to do more than what he's done so far. Let's look at where LSU was when Blake Baker came. 2023, LSU had a 110th ranked total defense. 110th. It's like 120, 130 schools in FBS football, and LSU was 110th in total defense. So Baker's first year back, 2024, you go from 110 to 58th in total defense. That's insane. That's not normal. You jumped 50 spots, over 50 spots, from 110th to 58th in total defense in his first year on campus. And I don't care what you're getting through the portal. I don't care what else is going on. That's crazy to have that kind of a jump in your first year. So 2024, all right, 58th. You're still not exactly a good defense. You're not historically bad. So what's a realistic jump? You're thinking from 1 year to another. Maybe if they can jump 10, 15 spots, that would be awesome, right? Well, you went from 58th to 27th in total defense. So you jumped 30 spots in total defense for 2025. So if you want a guy to take a defense that's ranked 110th and in 2 years be a top 5 defense, you're just watching the wrong sport. You need to go watch something else or don't worry about the coaches, just enjoy the game. Because you can't ask Blake Baker to do anything more than what he's done so far if you're being realistic. So those numbers are just to give you a better, I guess, just to show how good and how impressive Blake Baker has been so far as a defensive coordinator. So you get him locked down, and the dominoes start falling. Then you get confirmation. Okay, Corey Raymond's coming back. That's huge for me. And I talked about it last week. Corey Raymond, Blake Baker, and Frank Wilson were my 3 most important guys. Your offensive staff is all back except for your running backs coach. And you got confirmation yesterday that Kevin Smith, Lane Kiffin's running backs coach in Ole Miss, is returning to Ole Miss. So can you retain Frank Wilson? Now, Wilson has come out and said that everything will kind of be settled after the bowl game, which makes sense. Let him do his thing. Let him run his team. Frank Wilson is indeed still the interim coach. He's going to coach the Tigers in the bowl game, in the Texas Bowl, on December 27th. So don't look for any news as far as confirmation that Frank Wilson will be back until after that bowl game. But there are signs. There are good signs, and nothing is written in stone, obviously. But towards the end of the week, you had some big-time recruits that were waiting to sign, and you had some guys where either Frank Wilson was the lead recruiter or he was the secondary recruiter. He was heavily involved. Let's leave it at that. Frank Wilson was very much involved in some of these recruitments, and these guys waited past Wednesday, which was the first day of the early signing period, and they ended up signing on Friday. So what changed? We don't know, but what makes sense is these guys received maybe a positive word, or maybe not confirmation. Maybe it was confirmation that's not made public that Frank Wilson will be coming back. And on that note, I'm talking about guys like Lamar Brown and Deuce Gerald. When I did this show Wednesday, Lamar Brown and Deuce Gerald still hadn't signed at that point. Lamar Brown if you're not familiar, is the number one recruit in the class, regardless of position. The number one recruit in America, Lamar Brown out of Baton Rouge. Um, Again, Frank Wilson, very heavily involved in that recruitment, decides to sign with LSU on Friday. Deuce Gerald's another top five defensive line recruit. He decides to sign on Friday. And Deuce Gerald's, not only was he being recruited by Frank Wilson, his dad was recruited by Frank Wilson to Ole Miss from Baton Rouge in the 90s. So that doesn't write it in stone that Frank Wilson is coming back, but to me, it's a good sign. Also, the fact that Kevin Smith is not coming back, is not coming with Lane Kiffin to Baton Rouge is also a good sign, in my opinion. Now, as time goes by, you're also kind of giving more programs time to communicate with Frank Wilson too. You got programs like Texas that's looking for a running backs coach. So this thing could kind of turn into a bidding war. Another bidding war that we have to talk about is Elijah Robinson. Towards the end of the week, me, along with a lot of other people, thought that Elijah Robinson of Syracuse, formerly of Texas A&M, would be coming on board as LSU's defensive line coach. And Robinson was defensive line coach at Texas A&M, known as an outstanding recruiter, hell of a recruiter, and went to Syracuse and was defensive coordinator. Didn't go great. Towards the end of the year, they took some responsibility from him, but DC or not, we don't need him as a DC. LSU does not need Elijah Robinson as a defensive coordinator. Need him as a defensive line coach and a recruiter. The issue is a lot of people want him as a defensive line coach and a recruiter. It's a guy that went to Penn State. You got Nebraska who is after him. You got a lot of programs after Robinson right now, and it's making the decision a bit tougher for him. And not so much that you're going to choose, nothing against Nebraska, not so much that you're going to choose a program like Nebraska over LSU, but they need them more. It's just like a recruit. If you need them more, you're going to pay them more. So if you're LSU, do you want to get in a bidding war for a D-line coach? I don't know if you want to do that. You got a lot of people to pay on this coaching staff, and you also got a lot of people to play as far as players. And I just talked about Blake Baker's contract. He's getting over $3 million a year. You got an offensive coordinator, very, very well paid, in Charlie Weiss Jr. You know about Lane Kiffin's contract. He is now second highest paid coach in the country. After either Kirby Smart or Ryan Day, I think Kirby Smart. So look, I'm not tripping. It's not my money. But if I'm LSU, look, every coach can't be the highest paid coach at his position. And when you start talking about the elite defensive line coaches, you're talking about over $2 million. You're talking about $3 million a year for a D line coach. So at some point, it's got to stop. And look, I love the prospect of getting Elijah Robinson in Baton Rouge as LSU's defensive line coach. But if he's going to be the highest D-line coach in the country, like at some point, it's got to be some money for players. And I know LSU just signed a big deal, or a lot of players from LSU signed a deal with Nike, and LSU has a lot to offer. I think the program will be competitive with most anybody when it comes to NIL. But it doesn't mean that the money is endless. It doesn't mean that it's infinite. You got to be smart, and with the bigger contracts, the bigger buyouts come, and not so much for assistance, but either way, you got to be smart about your money. So we'll see what happens at the D-line position for that coach. But look, whoever comes to LSU as the D-line coach, man, he's got a lot to work with. LSU is going to lose some key guys like Bernard Gooden at D tackle, Jacoby and Guillory at D tackle. You're going to lose some great guys. Pyburn on the edge, Patrick Payton on the edge. But you bringing some great ones back too. If they're not great, very damn good. Could possibly on their way to great. Guys like Dominic McKinley. You got true freshmen that had some good snaps, like Walter Mathis at D tackle. And with this class, I talked about it last week, but this is something that you can't talk about enough because that's why you win. You win in the trenches, and you sign a 15-man class, a 14-man class, and you got the best defensive line group in the country, and that's crazy. It's not normal. Lamar Brown, top player overall, he's gonna play D tackle. Deuce Gerald's top 3 D tackle. Um, Richard Anderson, number 1 ranked D tackle in the country. Trenton Henderson, top 5 edge out of Florida, the best edge out of Florida. So look, whoever comes as the D line coach, God bless him. He's got a lot to work with. That's absolutely insane haul for such a small class at LSU. But like I said about Frank Wilson, he will decide his future, or he and LSU will decide Frank Wilson's future after the Texas Bowl. Announced over the weekend that LSU has been invited once again to the great Texas Bowl in Houston. And look, it's not exciting, but it's all good. You're going to a bowl game. It's a reward. It's a chance to end the season on a good note, on a high note, and that's always good. That's going to be December 27th at 8:15 Central on ESPN. Kind of late start, so y'all pray for me that I'm able to actually stay awake and watch that game, do a post game show, and do a little recap on it on lastwordonsports.com. Don't forget, check out my work, lastwordonsports.com. Last Word on College Football. And as far as this show, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. That's a big thing because you never know when this show might come on. I want to make it every Wednesday. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and it'll just pop up on your phone whenever the show is coming on. Do that for me. All right, back to the Texas Bowl. LSU will be playing Houston in the Texas Bowl on December 27th. Pretty decent matchup. LSU got Baylor last year. You'll get Houston, another obviously a local team playing in the Texas Bowl in Houston. Another Big 12 opponent. And it's an intriguing matchup. Houston is ranked, I think, 21st right now. Had a pretty good year, especially by Houston standards, had a better year than LSU. Right now, it's not really a lot to say as far as a preview because you don't even know who's playing for LSU right now. Right now, Nussmeier, of course, is not going to play. Mansour Delane's getting ready for the draft. He's not going to play. With Weeks is not going to play. Aaron Anderson most likely is not going to play. And this hasn't been confirmed, but there are rumors of Jake Pyburn not playing. And you get that. You understand that. You got the draft coming up. These guys have a whole future to consider right now. And look, it's just the way things are going. Notre Dame caught a lot of flack for opting out of the bowl game. And it's just, to me, it's another example of selective outrage with the opt-outs. It's 10 other schools, maybe not 10, but there's several other schools that opted out of bowl games, and people, jumped all over Notre Dame because they opted out. But it's just, look, that's the way it's going. It's not just programs that are kind of looking past the bowl games. It's everything. The whole college football world is kind of taking bowl games and just kind of putting them over in the corner. It's not that big a deal. It's not that important. And I think the biggest driving force of that is, big media talks about playoffs. You start the season talking about playoffs. It's all about getting to that first playoff presentation of the rankings, and you get these guys and they get up here and they talk about why they ranked, who, where, and none of it matters because they're gonna rank. They're gonna put. You're gonna get to the end of the season, and they're gonna put people where they want to put them. So I don't know why anybody would sit there and watch that every week, but Anyway, everything is centered around the playoffs. You got players have been opting out for years. It's just the natural progression. And look, I would love for every school to look at that as an opportunity, because when you look past these bowl games, you look past the fans. If you turn down a bowl game, uh, it's a long period of time with no football for fans. Like, nobody wants to go 9 months with no football at all. You're starving for any kind of practice reports or recruiting news. So there's one more chance for fans to sit down in front of the TV and watch the team they love. And whether they had a great year, or whether they made it to the playoffs or whatever, it's another chance for the fans to just take that in. And I think when you pass on that game, you kind of, to me, it's a slap in the face to your fan base. And look, I could be wrong. Some fan bases might think that they're too good for the Texas Bowl or Independence Bowl or whatever stupid bowl it is. And nothing against the Independence Bowl, but uh, not only is it a chance to give your fans something to look forward to, but it's also more opportunities to practice. And you got a lot of young players that are going to play with people opting out. That's just more opportunities for youth. It's more practices for your younger guys, your inexperienced guys, and I don't really see what you're gaining by passing on that. And I kind of didn't plan on going on that rant, but here we are playing a bowl game. If you're LSU playing a bowl game, what do you have to lose? You're gonna be 7-6. What you gonna do? Fire the coach? Oh, you already fired the coach. So what? Look, go ahead, play in the game. Give your fans something to do, something to watch, something to look forward to, and give your players their practice time. It's gonna pay off for you. Now, we'll talk more about the Texas Bowl as that date approaches. We're not going to try to preview it right now, not knowing who's going to play for LSU, not knowing who's going to play for Houston. But as it gets closer, we'll talk more about the Texas Bowl. LSU's second home is kind of like LSU's participation trophy at this point. If you survive the season, you can always come to the Texas Bowl. It's kind of how it feels right now. Gotta plug my computer up before it dies. So you got fans looking at bowl games. You got coaches like Lane Kiffin looking at, what are our needs? What can I be doing right now? If you're Lane Kiffin, you're not preparing for the bowl game. Look, that's Frank Wilson's problem. I'm figuring out how to get better. Look, he's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of pressure. He's got a lot of expectations. And I understand that LSU could finish, the 5-loss, 6-loss season. So the expectations shouldn't be exactly through the roof for 2026. Not everybody's going to understand that. It kind of goes back to the Blake Becker conversation, where you're paying them this much, so you should get this. So Kiffin, I guarantee you, is figuring out where he can get better, where he needs the most help, and your immediate help is going to come from the transfer portal. So you got some pretty exciting stuff going on right now. You got players declaring every day. The portal doesn't open until, I think, January 2nd. But every day you got more and more players who are declaring that they will enter the portal. And you also have guys that could possibly be talked into entering the portal. So what I did is I looked at LSU's needs. I looked at who's in the portal right now, who has declared that they're going to enter the portal. And I came up with a little list. It's a top 5 list of LSU prospects. We got sort of an LSU wish list here. And some of this is going to come down to just, the guy's good. You need to put forth the resources to get him. And some of this is, you got a need. Some of it is both. Some of it you got a need, and this guy's good, so you better be trying to get him. If you got the money, you better be trying to get him. So I got kind of like a top five prospects for LSU in the portal as it stands right now, because as I said, this is constantly evolving. You got more people getting in it every day. And honorable mention, where else would we start than the offensive line? He didn't make the top five, but honorable mention is going to be offensive lineman Mario Nash out of Florida State. Nash is a freshman. He redshirted this year, didn't play it down. Um, Looks like he was recruited, or he was rated as a recruit as an interior lineman. I think Florida State has him listed as an offensive tackle, so I think that was Florida State's plan for him, was to make him a tackle. The former four-star guy, LSU did offer him in high school. He redshirted this year, and I'm not sure how good he is because look, he didn't play this year, but LSU needs all the help it can get on the offensive line. And look, I will say this: I think some of these guys, like Ori Williams, I think some of these guys on this LSU offensive line are going to get better. But you can't enter 2026 depending on that. You got to get some established guys, and you got to get more guys. Even if you're not established, you can push the guys who are there and develop more competition, because it just wasn't nearly where it needs to be in 2025. Honorable mention, Mario Nash. At number 5, I got a wide receiver, Nick Marsh, out of Michigan State. And LSU is known for producing wide receivers. You got people who were down on on this year's group of wide receivers, which I don't know why you would be down on the wide receivers. What you show me a receiver who can look good in an offense like that. The offense was terrible. Like, what do you want the receivers to do? Yeah, they're gonna drop it. They're not used to getting it. Anyway, Nick Marsh. He's a sophomore out of Michigan State. Big guy at 6'3", 200, big X type receiver. You know, your possession type receiver. Not a burner, but he can get deep. You saw him make some plays down the field for Michigan State. This year, Marsh had 59 catches, 662 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Uh, his freshman year, he had the most receptions and he had the most yards of any true freshman in the history of Michigan State. And if you're not familiar with Michigan State, you had some dogs up there. You had Plaxico Burress in Michigan State. You had Carlos Rogers. You had some awesome wide receivers at Michigan State. And this guy, Nick Marsh, set the record for Charles Rogers, my bad. Set the record for catches, and he set the record for receiving yards at Michigan State. So I think that's going to be a position of need for LSU in the portal. You're going to be losing Barry and Brown for sure. You could bring back Aaron Anderson. I'm not sure what his plans are after the season. If I'm Aaron Anderson, I'd like to come back and have a healthy year and play in a real offense, not that JV stuff that we saw this past year, and raise your stock. I think Aaron Anderson could be a very high level slot receiver. But you come back, you have a full healthy year in a functional offense, you're only going to raise your stock. Other than Anderson, you got some pretty young guys. You got Kyle Parker who flashed. It's such a bad offense. It's hard to really judge these guys. You got guys like Kyle Parker. You got Teron Francis. You got Destin Hill. A couple of former car guys. But you don't have anybody established, especially on the outside. So Nick Marsh can make a big difference for this LSU offense, giving you that big go-to receiver, kind of body type and athleticism. He kind of reminds you of Teron Francis a little bit, but he's proven. Like, Marsh has done it, and he's done it for 2 years now. So number 5, you're going to have receiver Nick Marsh out of Michigan State. Coming in at number 4 on my little wish list for LSU. LSU is also losing some very talented linebackers in Harold Perkins and with Weeks. Well, I'm assuming Weeks is going to leave, but you got Kamari House out of North Carolina. North Carolina has a lot of transfer portal interest this year. They're losing, I think they're up to like 15 guys right now in the portal. The Bill Belichick experiment is not going so great, and guys are just bolting, getting up out of there. So Kamari House is a sophomore linebacker. He had 78 tackles this year. He had 1 sack, 1 interception. He's not the biggest guy at 6 foot even and 215, but I don't care how big you are when you can play. I mean, when you got 78 tackles, um, over 50 of them solo, Kamari House can play. He's a sideline to sideline type of guy. If you get the level of play up front that I expect from LSU to keep this guy clean, he can be a difference maker, and LSU needs him. You do have some linebackers, coming up. Devon Keys will be entering his 3rd year. You got Tyler Singleton, and they could very well end up being, good SEC level starters. They could be. I don't know what exactly their ceiling is right now, but this guy got 78 tackles, and if you watch his highlights, if you watch his tape, he's a guy. He's a ball. He sees ball, gets ball, a sideline to sideline type linebacker. And right now, you're looking for proven. You got guys that you're still developing, and who knows what they could develop into. I mean, for all we know, Tyler Singleton could become an all SEC type guy. But right now, you need all the help you can get. Number 4, Kamari House. At number 3, you're also losing some great edge players for LSU. You're losing Jack Pyburn. You're losing Patrick Payton. You need to get somebody in on that edge, and you want to get somebody that's proven. Why not look at Adam Trick out of Miami of Ohio? Um, this is a big guy on the edge, and he can play junior this year, so he'd come in as a senior. 6'4", 242, 8.5 sacks. Look, I was pleased with LSU's play on the defensive line, and Patrick Payton consistently tipped balls. Like every game, he was tipping balls. You didn't have a real pass rush extraordinaire on the edge. You didn't have like the speed demon or a guy who was just manhandling people with bull rushes. You didn't have that constant presence to make an offense game plan around them on that defensive line. Here's your guy, Adam Trick. 8.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, first team All MAC guy. I think he could be a huge help to this LSU defense and come in at a position of need. At number 2, we're going back to the offensive line. LSU cannot have enough offensive linemen. So the next guy I'm talking about, LSU should target in the transfer portal, is offensive tackle Josh Atkins. He started every game in the last 2 years. A senior out of Arizona State. He's getting another year. 2-year starter, 39 consecutive starts. Anchor of not a great line, but he was a bright spot. Like Braylon Moore was a bright spot for a bad LSU offensive line. Josh Atkins at Arizona State was one of the bright spots on that offensive line. And he comes at tackle. So let's say you get Josh Atkins in there and you honestly got some decent play from your tackle and Adams. So if you get him in there, maybe Adams goes to the right side. Maybe this guy goes to the right side, but you got 2 tackles, so you feel a whole lot better about than you felt coming into this year. So Josh Atkins, number 2 from Arizona State, and Atkins' decision to leave Arizona State, I don't know if it came before or after, but it could have been a factor in my number 1 target, Sam Levitt. Quarterback Sam Levitt of Arizona State also is entering the transfer portal. And needless to say, LSU needs a quarterback. LSU needs multiple quarterbacks. But Sam Levitt gives you a guy who is proven, who is accurate, who is tough, who is a leader, who has taken his team to the playoffs. And they had no expectations of getting there outside of Tempe. Nobody thought Arizona State was going to the playoffs last year. So, look, Sam Levitt, hell of a player. He's a sophomore right now. Got injured this year. Before his injury, he was up to 10 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He's a guy who takes care of the ball. He's an athletic guy who can buy himself some time. Very, very careful with the ball. He's not turnover prone. The complete opposite. I'm not trying to take a shot at Nussmeier. Look, shout out to Nussmeier. He did a lot for LSU. But as far as style of quarterback play, they're on polar opposite ends of the spectrum. This is a guy who likes to move around. This is a guy who takes care of the ball. And look, threw for 2,800 yards last year. And not only is he accurate, but he's good under pressure. He's got one of your higher ratings under pressure of any quarterback. He can push the ball down the field. He's got the arm strength. There's not a lot that he's lacking. I think Sam Levitt is easily the most proven quarterback in the portal right now, or as far as intends to go in the portal right now. This is a guy who's gonna demand some money, but it's gonna be probably as close as you can get to a sure thing. So I fully expect LSU to go after my top prospect in the portal, Sam Levitt. As far as LSU is concerned, he's my first. He's probably my top prospect. He might be my top prospect overall. But as far as what LSU needs right now, I'm talking Sam Levitt at quarterback out of Arizona State. Speaking of quarterbacks, there could be another one entering the portal. You don't have anything official. As far as what I've seen, I haven't seen a statement from him. But the big talk around this time last year was Bryce Underwood. And Bryce Underwood decided to flip his commitment from LSU to Michigan because they threw a buttload of money at him. Michigan is going through some things right now. Michigan has recently lost their coach. And, well, not lost their coach. They fired their coach. We'll get into that too. So look, everybody on this Michigan team is going to have 30 days. I mean, you can go wherever you want. The portal is open for these guys. It's nothing stopping them from doing anything. You lose your coach, you got freedom to move around. So it's going to be a lot of talk. There are going to be a lot of rumors, and naturally there will be. This guy, probably the biggest high school recruit since Arch Manning. He started all year. You got some mixed reviews on his starts. I will say that you can't expect too much from a true freshman. I don't care what he's ranked. He's a true freshman. I mean, we saw a guy in Arch Manning who's been on campus for years now, and he struggled. And he got better as the year went along, but he struggled. So I think you got just too much expectation going on sometimes, especially if a guy has a high ranking. I would take Underwood in a heartbeat, but Underwood he's gonna cost a pretty penny. So if you're LSU and you're looking at Sam Levitt and you're looking at Bryce Underwood, I'm going with the guy that's proven. Underwood could turn out to be one of the best quarterbacks to come through the college football level. You don't know that. You know what you're getting with Sam Levitt. You're getting a polished guy. You're getting an accurate guy. You're getting a guy who can make all the throws, who processes quickly, and he can play in any offense. Now, of course, you want to tailor the offense to his strengths, but Sam Levitt can walk in any offense in America and run it effectively. We don't know if Bryce Underwood can do that. So, as far as getting both of them, no, it's going to cost too much money. So you're not going to get both of them. So if I'm LSU and I'm picking between Levitt and Underwood, I'm going with the proven commodity in Sam Levitt. If LSU pursues Underwood and gets him, I'm not mad at all. I think Underwood's upside is through the roof. But I'm just talking about these two quarterbacks right now who I would take for 1 year. All right, so we talked about Underwood, so we got to talk about his coach, Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore has been fired by Michigan. A lot of rumors going on. What you do know is that he was messing around with a staffer. Okay, you get it. I'm not gonna jump on that bandwagon of making fun of him. Social media is way ahead of me on that. It's not a joke. I can tell that hadn't been told already, and I wouldn't want to joke about it anyway because we're talking about somebody's life here. And if you look, I get it. He did what he did, so you're not gonna cry for him, but you still got his family who has to deal with the embarrassment and the hurt from all of this. But look, he ain't the first. He won't be the last. It's happened to the best of them with men. And people say men in power, but it's just men in power because they got more options. But with men, period, you've seen a many man fall to two things, and that's money and the other stuff. And for a lot of men, the main reason they want the money is for the other stuff. So look, I'm not gonna kill him. I mean, look, they're already just driving him in the news and the social media. So look, Sharon Moore, good luck to him. It's gonna be tough going as far as coaching going from here. I don't know what you're gonna do, but it's gonna be tough going as a coach. But Sharon Moore, sometimes when it comes to peace, less is more. So I will end the show on that. I will catch y'all later. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show and catch my work on lastwordonsports.com. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on TikTok at CFBLou. I'll holler at y'all later.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.